Hey, Real Green Ninja here. Today we're going to talk about how to set up a tax code when you've never had to charge a tax before. So let's begin. This actually got inspired by the state of Kentucky, who is legally required to start charging a sales tax as of July 1st, 2018. Now, anybody else, maybe you've charged tax in the past, this is also the process if you have to start charging a new or different tax to your customers' accounts. Keep in mind, if you ever need help with any step in the process, you can always put in a support request for Real Green technical support, and any technicians can help you. Now, you'll notice here my screen is a little bit different. I'm not using the RG Ninja. I'm actually using a one called SA Clean for US because it's pretty much a lot of clean data set up for a US type of company. And that way we don't have a lot of clutter in there from all the tax codes I put in the past and everything like that. Also, these are the official instructions that were released by Real Green, and I will be putting a link to a PDF file of where these instructions are. So if you want to download them, you can grab them, and then you can go through those at your convenience. But for the most part, we need to make sure that the tax code's in the system in the first place, because more than likely it's not. So we're going to go up to Data, Company Parameters, and then we're going to go to Financial Parameters. Under Financial Parameters, we're going to click on Sales Tax. Now you'll notice there's already a tax exempt. Again, this is a clean database. This is brand new, like almost nothing's been done to it. You may or may not have a tax exempt. It is recommended to have a tax exempt even if you need to create it. So that way, if you have a customer that is tax exempt, we can assign a code to them so they won't get charged sales tax. Because the thing is, if you just leave the sales tax code blank and you call up and say, hey, why was this person charged sales tax? I don't know as a support technician if someone forgot to put the tax code on them or if they are supposed to be tax exempt. But at least by putting that tax exempt in there, we know for sure that they're supposed to be tax exempt. Now, it doesn't normally show up because it's not available for any branches. And so I'm going to go ahead and all I need to do is select all branches. Now, if you do have one, but it's also marked as unavailable with this unchecked, just mark it, available by check marking it. And again, the tax rate is going to be 0%. For the new one, we're going to click new up here at the top. And I'm going to use ST for sample tax or sales tax or whatever. And you're going to give it a name. Now, the name doesn't really matter, but you need to understand, though, that this name will show up on your invoices as the reason for the tax if there's only one tax code that applies. If the customer has more than one tax, it's going to say after taxes or whatever. But again, this is for if they only have one tax code, this is the description you're going to see. Now, once we put it in there, normally, if you were just starting out fresh and you're charging tax right now, we would put a tax rate in there. But because of Kentucky is not charging tax until July 1st, for now, we're going to keep it blank. And you'll see why once we get to the point where I talk about what to do after July 1st. For everyone else, if it's something where you're supposed to be starting to charge tax right now, you would then put your tax rate in right now. So that way, when we run utilities and stuff, we'll update the tax information. Once we got the tax code or codes in there, we're going to hit save at the top. And now we have something where we can select it. The next step is we need to go into the company branch setup. And the reason why is that way going forward, when you add more customers to that particular branch, it'll automatically apply that tax code to the account. Now, there's another place where we can do for the zip codes where if you put a customer in a zip code, and again, I'll show you that here in a moment, but we're going to hit edit at the top and then we're going to hit by default, we want to use that tax code we just created. Once we've done that, now we're going to go to data, customer parameters, and we're going to go to zip postal codes. Now, I only have one zip code because again, this is a clean database. I'm trying to make things as simple and uncluttered as possible. You may have 100 different zip codes. Unfortunately, there's no mass way to say boom, add the tax code to every one. You will need to click on edit, hit the drop down for the tax code, select it, and then hit save. Now, if you have more than one, you're going to hit edit, you're going to hit the tax code, go to the next one tax code, next one tax code, until you have all the tax codes that would be covered or that were covering that particular zip code. And then once you're done, obviously, again, you're going to hit save. Now, once you have all the tax codes and everything in there, you're going to go through and close the window here. And then, let me grab my piece of paper. I'm actually reading off the official instructions right now. We're going to go to the utility that will now add the tax code to the customer's account. So let's grab that example customer here. I think it's account number 1. Yep, there he is. So you see right here, the existing customer does not have the tax code. Again, because when he was added to the system, they didn't have the tax codes in the system. So because of that, we could definitely go through and click on edit and hit the drop down and then set the sales tax on there. The thing is though, is you're going to have to do that for every customer. And that can be extremely time consuming if you have a lot of customers. So we do have a utility that will go through and apply the tax code for you based upon what's on the zip code table. And that's why we need to put those tax codes on the zip table, even though we already put it all on the company branch setup. Now, the utility is going to be under Tools, Utilities, Customer Utilities, and then it's going to be Zip Postal Utility. It is very, very, very important that you want to make sure to get a data backup made first. You want to make sure that you have a data backup so that way if we hit the wrong checkbox or the wrong drop down, we do something wrong, we can always restore the backup, and then once the backup is restored, we can figure out what we did wrong in the first place and then do it again the right way. Now, the thing is, for right now, because we don't want the tax to be charged yet, because in Kentucky, July 1st, and today is actually June 21st, because we don't want to start charging tax right now, we need to make sure to uncheck the sample tax, because normally you're not going to change tax codes on people that are tax exempt, and it recognizes any tax code that has a 0% to be considered a quotation figures tax exempt tax code. So again, we want to get that sample tax on those customers' accounts, or the Kentucky tax or whatever tax you're charging. Now, obviously, we can select what branch or branches if we have multiple ones. We can also select what zip codes are we going to update. So pretty much what it's going to do is going to look at all the people that are in this zip code, and then by saying set the tax code, it's going to make the tax code on the account match the tax codes that are set up on your zip postal table. Again, that's why it's important to hit these steps. Now, once we do that, and again, let's pretend we made our data backup, which I actually did, but that's beside the point. I didn't show you that. But we did our data backup, and we're going to hit copy. It's going to go through and say, are you sure? We're going to hit yes. It's going to do some processing, and boom, it's going to say it's done its thing. Now, again, this is a clean database. We really don't have a lot of customers. This can take a little while depending on how many accounts you have in the database. If we go back to the customer's account, change tabs, or push F5 to refresh, you'll see there's that tax code now. So this customer is ready to start being charged sales tax. But here's the thing, though. There's another place where you need to go through and add the tax codes, and that's on the actual services themselves, or on the products if it's a work order type of job that uses products that priced by time and materials. Again, I'll show you that here in a little bit. But we need to go to Data, Product Parameters, Services Program Specials, and then we need to hit Services. Now, if you are at the point where you're supposed to be charging sales tax right now, and you did put amount in there, then we can use the Add All button. But because right now that has a 0%, hitting Add All isn't going to do anything. Again, once the percentage has been added, it would throw it in there. But we still need to hit this drop down and then select that tax code and say this tax code applies to the service. As long as it matches between the service and the customer's account, that right there says I need to charge sales tax for the service for this customer. Now, as far as the taxable percentage, this is saying how much of the service's price is taxable. In this case, they have to pay tax on the full amount they're going to be charged. Therefore, it's 100% taxable. Some companies out there might work in places where maybe half the service is taxable and you set that to 50%. But for right now, most of the time, it's probably going to end up being 100. Once we've done that, we're going to hit save. We're going to hit this drop down. We're going to go to the next service. We're going to hit edit. Again, anything that's service that can be taxable, you will need to make sure to add that tax code on there. So I'm just going to add the rest of them here.
Oops. Then we get tax exempt there. Save. Round. Oops. I'm going to speed this up on the playback here. Save. Hit round 5. Edit. Hit that drop down. Save. And then repeat special. Edit. Hit that thing here. Save. Hit save. Hit this here. Service call. Service call I don't want to charge for, so I'm going to charge tax.
So, but pretty much you're going to go down the list. Now, one thing you'll notice is that on the work order job, something that's marked as being charged as a work order, you will not see the tax grid on that service. And that's because we don't charge based upon the size of the property or by strictly by man hour or just type of price in there. We go based on the time and materials of what we actually use. Therefore, we have to go to our data, product parameters, products, go to our products tab, and you'll see there's a tax code there. So let's say, for example, we hit this drop down, and let me see here. Let's say whatever sticker. I have no clue what stickers are, but let's pretend they're stickers. And again, we're going to be charging them for each sticker that we use. And again, it's going to be taxed. So we're going to hit edit. Again, you could hit add all if the amount's in there, or hit that drop down, hit the sales tax or service tax or whatever you put in there. So that way, for work order products, we need to add the tax code. So now we have taxes on the customer's account because the utility and setting up all that stuff and parameters. We got taxes on the services and then the products that are going to be taxable. We're pretty much set for right now. And there's really nothing we need to do until we actually have to start charging tax. Now, again, keep in mind, if you're supposed to be charging tax already, then we can go ahead and run the steps right now. But again, for the Kentucky people, you're not really going to be starting charging sales tax or service tax until July 1st. And because of that, we want to make sure that we're not putting taxes on the ones that were done before that date, and we want to make sure we've got the taxes done after. The really tricky part is if you're printing invoices on June 29th for your June 30th, which is Saturday, or July 2nd, which is Monday services, you have to be kind of careful. It gets a little tricky because we don't want the Saturday ones to show the tax, but we want the Monday ones too. I mean, if you can hold off on putting your invoices for Monday, you can do that. But if you decide that you want to print out Saturday and Sunday on Friday, then you'll have to do Saturdays, then run the utilities I'm going to show you here in a moment, and then generate the Monday ones. Because again, we want to make sure that we're not charging tax when we're not supposed to. and we are charging taxes when we need to. That being said, we need to add the tax rate to the tax code we created prior. So we're going to come up to data, company parameters, and financial parameters. Again, we're going to go to sales tax, we're going to hit edit, and very important, make sure you hit the right tax rate. And again, let's say we're doing a 6%. The reason why is this is actually the third time I've done this part of the video, because I put the tax rate in the wrong spot and didn't want to show how silly it was that I made a mistake like that. But of course, I'm telling you about it, so obviously you know. But the point is, you want to make sure that the tax rate is on the tax code you need to charge the sales tax. So once we do that, we're going to hit save. Now the thing is though, is by adding the tax code, you'll see that it didn't automatically add the tax to the customer's service. Okay, it didn't add to the job. Actually, like I said, this is actually the third time. We're going to go ahead and delete this one off here because we don't need that one because that was the mistake I made. But like I said, again, the original one that's on here, there's no tax because we now have to run some utilities to get that tax on there. Now, if we were to add the job fresh, now that the tax codes are all in place and all the settings and everything are where they need to be, when we go into detail and we hit save, you'll see now the tax shows up. We need to get this right here on anything that has not been completed yet. We're going to run a utility. If you have any questions, if you need any help or anything, if you want a second pair of eyes to make sure everything is set up before you do this, definitely give us a call. All right. It's also a good idea to make sure to get a data backup if you don't want to call us first. And then once you've done the data backup, run the utility. Once you've run the utility, double check to make sure things work the way they needed to. And once you've done that, if everything's good, you're good. If something jumps out at you, give us a call. And then we can go through, restore the backup, and then see about getting the information correct and make sure everything's worked for you. Again, for posted people, like I said, you might as well give us a call anyways to get a data backup, and then we can help you with the process. Once we have the tax rate in there, and they have jobs in the customer's accounts that need the tax rate, now keep in mind, it's only going to do the ones that have not been completed yet, which includes prepay, and I'll explain that how we're going to handle those in a little bit. We're going to go into tools, utilities, and then we're going to go to program job utilities, and then we're going to do update services utility. This utility, all it does is it takes a look at what the service price is currently. It looks if there's any applicable discounts as well as any taxes which now exist, and it recalculates the totals. And again, for incomplete services, we're going to do it for 2018 to 2018 because that's what year it is, and that's when we're starting checks. When we hit update, it's going to say, are you sure? We're going to hit yes. It's going to take a few moments to process. Again, clean data, not a lot in there. It's going to go quick. For you guys, it might take a little longer. Once we do that, if we go back into that original service that we added, again, you'll see there's a sales tax for the top one. If we go into the one that we added again, just to show, there's a sales tax there too. For the ones that have been completed, again, it's not going to retroactively add tax to their accounts. Now, the thing is, though, is again, you obviously have an accountant or a tax person that handles the taxes and stuff like that. If the law says that prepaid service are grandfathered in as non-taxable, meaning that they said, well, they gave you the money at the head of the year before taxes were being charged. We didn't even know we were going to charge taxes, so don't worry about it. If you are not required to charge a tax because they've already been prepaid, then what we do is we'll do what's called a Zizi Adjustment. This is one of those few rare circumstances where we're going to tell you to use one of those double repeating character codes. Give us a call. We'll help you out there. Now, as far as the Zizi Adjustment, it's going to affect the tax report. There's another one called TTM. But the thing is, though, is you can decide, do we want to take care of it now or do we want to take care of it later? It is recommended you should probably take care of it now, simply because that way, when you run your tax reports, if you're running them once a month, it's reflecting accurate information. If you hold off, because you do it at the end of the year, that's entirely up to you. If you are required to charge tax on prepaid, then you can decide whether or not you want to eat it, and then you can do your adjustments, or you can say, hey, we'll just leave the remit balance on there and the customer owes us that, and we'll have to let them know it's because of the taxes. As far as doing the adjustments, anytime you do an adjustment, we're going to go to the adjustment button up here. You'll type in the account number, and as I mentioned before, we could turn around and do a Zizi Adjustment. Now, the thing is, though, is when you do a tax adjustment, it's going to ask you what tax code to apply it to. So we're going to go ahead and select and make sure we got that tax. Again, you'll have to figure out, like, well, how much will they owe? The easiest thing to do would be go to aging and prepay adjustments, and then make sure that everything going forward is where it needs to be. These are selected with a prepay code. We make sure our balance, which is how much we need, matches our reserve. It's probably going to generate a remit of some sort. And again, this is the remit we're going to be adjusting off using that ZZ tax code. Once we've done that, we can then go through and then just do things as normal. Another thing to be aware of too is installments. Now, unfortunately, there really is no automated way to fix the taxes on installments. Again, we can only do the ones that are taxable going forward. So what we would do is we'd go to their active installment plan. We would, again, they don't have a plan right here. We'll click new right there. And then we're going to hit this calculate tax button. And the way this works is when you hit it, it's going to take a look at whatever that amount of the installment charge was. was. So for example, if I, let's say come in here and we'll do 10 charges, and I'll start it at, let's say, start at February, and then I'm just going to do it for like $1,200. If I go through and build this out here, when I hit calculate tax, it's going to look at the tax code and figure out what's the percentage and then give us a tax amount right there. Keep in mind though, it will not change ones that have already been posted. So it's very important. And like I said, unfortunately, there really is no automated way or mass way of manually doing that. You will have to go into each of your installment charges to go. So I know this is a lot of information. I know there's a lot to deal with here. This is one of the longer videos, but again, it covers a lot of different things you got to take care of. At any point in the process, definitely feel free to call Real Green. Again, I always recommend, if you're not quite sure, if you need a backup or you're not quite sure what to do, call Real Green, because it's a lot easier to make sure things are set up and then do it, as opposed to going through doing it and then realizing things are not set up properly and then have restore backups and start from scratch and all that type of stuff. So I hope this helps. I hope this explains some things so you can see the stuff in action. I'm going to be putting a link for the official instructions I've been giving going forward. So if you need any help, call Real Green, and I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful day.